this month's Portals Community Call. It is great to have you with us. I'm Jason Gomberg from MS Dynamics World, and as always, I'm joined by Nick Hayduk, and we have a special guest who will be introducing himself shortly. It's Alex Meese, but I won't say too much more. He has a great demo that I was able to, and a walkthrough that I was able to see a sneak peek of before we started, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. But before we begin, just a couple of housekeeping notes. First, we are recording today's event. We'll be making that available after the session ends. And we also welcome your questions during the event. So enter them anytime into the questions block, and one of us will make sure to see it and get it answered. So without any further delay, we are going to kick off with Nicholas Hayduk. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And yeah, we got a great guest presenter today who's going to show us some of the cool kind of pair programming AI stuff. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing that. So yeah, why don't we get started? We also have some pretty big news related to Power Pages as well. So let's get started with that. So yeah, I'll just do a quick introduction for those of you who may be joining us for the first time. My name is Nicholas Hayduk. I'm the president and software engineer with Engineered Code, located here in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. I'm a Microsoft MVP, and I've been working with Power Pages since about 2009, so more than 15 years now. My career began at EDX Studio, which was the company that originally built Power Pages and that Microsoft acquired in 2015. So if we are not already connected, please feel free to do that on LinkedIn. Otherwise, if you're interested in other Power Pages content, you can follow us on X. You can follow along on our blog that we do roughly once a month. You can follow our YouTube channel where we post not only these recordings, but the kind of our 2-minute tips that we do every Tuesday. As well as if you're looking for a podcast focused on Power Pages, I do that with George Dubinsky, and you can find that at crm.audio. So lots of ways to follow and stay in touch. And yeah, like I said, please feel free to hit that connect button on LinkedIn. Happy to do that. All right, moving on. Just as always, want to say thank you. If I can click the right button here. Yeah, there we go. Say thank you to Jason and the team at MS Dynamics World for their support of these calls over the last, since 2020, so the last 6 years or so. I think it's been a great partnership, and gives us the opportunity to chat with the folks of the community and kind of gather once a month and talk about all the latest fun stuff. So in terms of our agenda today, kind of same as usual, we do, like I mentioned, have some pretty big Portals news, and then we'll get into our guest presenter today, where Alex will be talking to us about building SPAs with React and Copilot agent pair programming. So I know that, when I look at the kind of the stats on our previous kind of tips and calls, anything having to do with kind of JavaScript or building things using Liquid and JavaScript, those are always very highly rated. And so we can see how to do that, along with how we can use our friend Copilot to help us with that. So then we will talk about the date and time of our next community call, and we will leave some time probably for some Q&A. But yeah, if you do have any questions throughout the presentation, just drop those in the questions block, and we will I'll keep an eye on those, and we'll do our best to get those answered. Okay, let's talk about the big news. So what do we have for Portals news? Something that's been kind of talked about for a while is now available in public preview. The way it was described in the product team blog post was native Dataverse authorization. And so what this is the kind of merging, amalgamation, kind of bringing together of Dataverse and Power Pages security. So up until this point, Power Pages security was always something that was very distinct from Dataverse. So with Dataverse, you'd have security roles, and you'd have the ownership of records, and then you'd have business units, and you'd have your security roles based on who owned those records and all that sort of stuff. Whereas in Power Pages, we have web roles, and those are assigned to contacts. And the table permissions are based on how people are, or how those contacts are related to other records. So with this recent effort from Microsoft, there is kind of a somewhat of a merging. I don't think it's a complete merging, but there is a merging of those concepts. So the way this works is that contacts will still be, people who log into your Power Pages site would still be contacts, but behind the scenes and kind of automatically by the product, um, a user record will be created for those contacts as part of them kind of getting into Power Pages. So you have the ability now to see all the things that a contact has potentially done via Power Pages, and you can see that in things like who's the owner of the record, audit history, all that sort of stuff, because all those contacts have a corresponding user or entry in the system user table as well. And then along with that, web roles and security roles will be kind of aligned in that all the web roles will have a corresponding security role, I believe is how that works. And so all of this was kind of mentioned in the release notes recently. The announcement came with a couple of other things that I don't think were originally discussed, and that is column level security support. So within Dataverse, we do have that field level security, column level security, and so it looks like that's included in this new Power Pages announcement. But honestly, the big one that kind of this was the first I'd heard about in the announcement is this new custom scope permission, which sounds like it's the ability to create permissions that are not based just on relationships, which again, that's kind of traditionally how Power Pages has worked. It's all about how a contact has been related to another, or if a contact is related to that record in some way, kind of a yes or no, it's either related or not. But it sounds like we're going to be able to use fetch XML to say, okay, it may be related, but I want a contact to only be able to see high priority items or prior items that were created after a certain date. And so essentially what you can do is you can define a fetch XML query to create those permissions as well. So honestly, that was one of my kind of most. I get asked that question a lot. I get a lot of people reaching out to me on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, I'm trying to figure out this permissions model, and I only want them to see certain types of cases." And it's like, well, um, it's not really possible out of the box to do that. What you could do is create different relationships to cases and kind of do it that way, but you can't say, "Give me access to all the high priority cases or the cases that have a certain location or whatever it is." And so that was included as part of this announcement as well. So this is certainly the biggest change to security in the kind of in the entire time that Microsoft has owned this product. I would say it goes back to like table permissions or entity permissions as they are known back in the day. Like that was the biggest change we've seen, and that was again pre-acquisition. That was probably 2013, 2014. So this is definitely the biggest change that we've seen as it relates to kind of securing access to Dataverse data via Power Pages. And so certainly recommend you take a look at it and think about participating in that kind of public preview. Take a look, give it a try, provide your feedback, because I don't think this is going anywhere. This is the way of the future. So now's the time to kind of give your feedback. And like I said, this is a big deal. I think this is going to be a nice change. And so go ahead and play with it and give it a try and give your feedback to Microsoft. All right. I don't see any questions submitted related to that specifically, so I'm going to move on and introduce our guest speaker today and our guest topic. So, well, I do have one question. Hey, Alice, you want to come off mic and ask
Yeah,
a question?
thanks, Nick. And it's great to be back here. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Meese. I'll save my intro for later, though. Very interesting stuff you showed. I did see it like come by. I haven't had the time to look at it, but lots of changes coming. I was just wondering with and you probably don't have the answer to it. I'm just trying to figure out with the customer insight integrations. But still wrapping my head around that. So we can move on if
All right.
you like. Yeah.
Okay.
Great topic.
Okay. All right. Well, here, let's just change the screen
Yeah.
over to you, and why don't you take us away, introduce
Yeah.
yourself,
Sounds
um,
great.
and yeah, thanks for joining us today. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, can you see my screen good? All good?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so hello everyone. Today I'm gonna take you through my journey, right? This was a vacation project. I had 1 week, and as you usually do, I waited until the last day. So I wasn't reading directly through documentation. So I'll kind of take you through my journey of how I set up my agent, how I use my agent, and the steps that my goal was to I've been wanting to build a SPA site for whatever purpose to see what the capabilities are. I'm not like a professional JavaScript coder. I can kind of read it, understand what it does, but so I try to keep the use case simple. We're gonna look at and I'll go to the next screen here. We're gonna look at a simple like portfolio site, right? You probably wouldn't use this Power Pages for this, but it's all based on Dataverse data. So I'll walk you through how I set up the Visual Studio and with the hooks and the types and import the React stuff, like my entire process through that. So I'm just turning on the camera just for the quick intro. I'll go off camera in a minute, but yeah. So my name is Alex Meese. I'm based out of Florida. I'm currently a Microsoft partner for Microsoft clients. So I get the opportunity to work on a lot of exciting different projects and Power Platform. You know, I started with Canvas apps, then well, really I started with Power BI, then Power Automate back in 2015, 2017, then Canvas apps around 2018, 2019. Then got into Power Pages, which honestly I geek out of, if you will. Um, Power Pages is you can do so much with it, right? So yeah, that's just a little about me. I'll go off camera now and get into the interesting aspects of what I can show you today. So here you have just a couple slides. So I'll do a solution overview of, I'll kind of switch my screen to first. So I'll show you the agent next slide, but here I'll show you the site first. So I'll go back. This is the public site. If you want to look at it now, you can, type in the URL. But basically I've got some different components, right? This is a full React page. So this, I've got my feedback, like carousel slider that's based on Dataverse data. I'll show you in a minute. And then same thing for the featured work. Then I've got like a quick link to the portfolio, quote unquote page. Again, based on Dataverse information, and same here, right? So initially I uploaded the site with these 4 sections, and then, learning through the process, I wanted to like try re-uploading something, but something different, like seeing the capabilities. I wanted to upload like a video game sort of thing. So I also used the same Copilot agent that I'll show you in a minute to help me kind of like get set up through the process and design that agent. So you have the arcade or the Dataverse dash, which I'll just quickly go through. But basically, you have this window that shows you, it's a game, and then you insert coin, etc. Or you could even actually, and I'll try it. You could even press enter to start it, which I did on my keyboard. Then you have the audio, so I'll cut that out just for the presentation, but I'll show you I uploaded that as well. So here we have like 10 questions, right? And I'll just kind of quickly go through these. Here I got 250 correct. I'll get 3 rights and 1 wrong. So a DLP policy is set to block the HTTP connector. What happens if a flow reuses it? It's suspended at runtime, right? So then we get another one correct, and you can see your streak is increasing up here. You have a certain amount of lives left, and you have like a tracker. Basically, you're bringing that information. This is all hard-coded information, but you could like tie into Dataverse data. ALM strategy, where should unmanaged solution live? I'm sure everyone's saying development right now. So we have 3 correct. So we can see we have a 1.5 streak. Here I'm going to get this one wrong. Which security model should you use to restrict a record by business unit and team who can decide visible property? So our streak got reset here. And if I get this one right, which Copilot see a feature lets you ground your answers in your own enterprise data, generative answers. So you can see I don't have the streak. So that's a couple of cool parts about the code that it generated. You can see that my lives went down. And so I won't go through all the 4 answers because we've got quite a bit of ground to cover from this, but I guess I'll just click through them real quick just to show you the end screen. So I got game over, actually. I've never seen that screen, but you can retry it and start from the beginning. But you would get like a screen if you want to try it. You can see the game winning screen. So now, yeah, so that covers nope, that doesn't cover the whole demo because I have to show you the backend. So we have a Power Pages single page application uploaded here. I'll go over this later when you upload your site. But my solution, so I've got the tables, right, with the information. And I just made myself a quick little modern driven app just to update my portfolio projects and information, just so you have an understanding of the data format. So I kind of set up my columns, right, and my tables I picked the career portfolio because that's the one I had the most data to try with for a fun project. So yeah, and that's kind of the initial setup, right? Just create your solution. So next here, I'll show you the Copilot setup, the Copilot agent I have. Again, very simple Copilot agent setup. The prompt I used initially, I'll show you the initial prompt and kind of talk about the next prompts. You know what? I may not talk about the prompts following that directly, but kind of talked about the main hurdles that I went through. So I'm trying to create this SPSI to be used as a front end for my boutique consulting firm, blah, blah, blah. Include animate components such as loading spinners, hero sections. Basically, I told it what I wanted to include. It gave me an initial output, and then I guide it. So I think this is an important part here. You're already telling it you have your Dataverse kind of setup that you want to connect to different table profiles. And actually from here, I actually kind of laid out the mapping, and I was able to adjust, go back into Visual Studio. And I don't want to go too many places at once, but if we go to the Dataverse types, that's where I was kind of able to adjust what goes where from what it gave me. So just to share my screen on that agent specifically for the setup, it's pretty simple agent. I used 4.6 for Opus. I think I might have used 4.7 for the updates for the game app. But basically the instructions, I'll kind of quickly read through these. Act as a Microsoft Power Platform Solutions architect, then general guidelines, skills, and step-by-step instructions, which I think most important to really put in your instructions. But all to say, I basically use Copilot to help me create like the perfect agent, right? Or the perfect instructions for my agent. And this is one that I go back to for most questions I need to figure out quickly. Then in the knowledge, I have just some Microsoft specific sources. And then in the tools, I basically just have the Microsoft Learns MCP server connected to it. So that's the basic setup there. And if at any time, I'll try to check the chat for the questions, but if at any time you have any questions, I'll try to take a pause in a minute. But looking at the time, and we've got plenty. So here, next, we're gonna go to the correct end-to-end sequence for deploying a SPA site. So first, phase one, local dev. Everything into what I used was Visual Studio. So first, we have a couple slides on that walk us through it, but basically imported a template and then imported the dependencies or installed the dependencies. And then we have a few slides on themes, components, pages, how the setup there was done. And you can also test locally with mock data, which I did, which I can show. And then, NMP run that. Then initial deployment, we want to allow a JavaScript upload in the Power Platform environment. So that's done through the PPAC Center. Then do the initial upload through Visual Studio with PackCLI, upload Power Pages code. We'll take a look at it. And then upload SPA that creates the website records, which you then want to save in your config file for later if you need to update the site. Then that's another part. It's going to basically at that point upload your site, but it's going to be in the inactive section, right? It's going to show here. So you'll want to go back. You'll want to go here and then activate your site. Then once you've activated your site, that's the point where I wasted really a couple of hours, like trying to figure out like these because the agent told me like you need to set the table permissions web rows before, and I was like, this doesn't make sense. How can I do this when there's no site record? So obviously, that just to point out that was something I wasted time on. You can only upload the or update the site settings, the web API permissions, table permissions, web row after that, after you've first uploaded the first upload of your site from your local repository. Then you want to test your site, make sure that your Dataverse hooks and connections in your code work as expected. And then phase 4 we'll look at is the question of if you want to make any updates, like I did for the game, for example, what's the process there? And see. Sorry, I was just looking at if there was any questions, but we're good to go. So first thing I did, right, is I went into Visual Studio, and then I opened my specific folder. Then I click the new terminal. You have to have PackCLI installed there. But basically, I ran this command, like create byte at latest, and then whatever you want to name your site. Then template is React.js. Don't think I use the CD. You can use it just to make sure you specify a directory, but I think I was already in my directory either way. Then I ran the nmp install, and there's some other prerequisite, which is why I added this link here. So yeah, you want to make sure you have Power Platform CLI install. I'm pretty sure you want to make sure you have some React, or so there you have those on the Microsoft Learn article, right? So what that did is it created a lot of the scaffolding for the project. It auto created a lot of the folders, not all of them. So then from that, and yeah, so I'm getting a little battery on my keyboard. All right, so let's move on. So then I installed the required dependencies. So you need to use React Router DOM, the hash router for Power Pages. I've seen why, but I forget at this moment. I know I have a note of why somewhere, but just know you need to use that for Power Pages. Then I imported some animation libraries, some icons, and looks like Framer Motion for the animation library was recommended by the um, bot or agent I used. Then the agent gave me a project structure. It told me, put your public assets over here. And mind you, like this is, information I'm learning about, right? So this was really helpful in setting up my project structure. So basically what I did from there is I went back to Visual Studio, and I created my hook folder under the source folder, and then I created the use dataverse.ts and kept it empty, etc. So I just basically created my structure from the instructions that I received here, which provided components and pages. Later on, you'll see that I have the components and CSS. Don't remember why the AI told me to do that, to be honest with you. Maybe it might make it lighter to read on the actual code, but you'll see that later. So basically, I created this initial structure. Then we created a custom React hook for Dataverse. So this is a custom React hook that basically abstracts all your Power Pages web API interaction in a single reusable interface. So the goal of this is that the component that you build throughout your application shouldn't care whether your data comes from Dataverse in production, or if you need to mark it in local dev. They just use a single, and I don't have it like, so let me switch to my screen here. Use dataverse.ts, right? They can call this single file and to get the information that they need to get back data, loading, error, and fetch functions. So it's environment aware, and I'm trying to find the spot here. Yes, there we go. Use dataverse, and we have consist data, set data use state. So it's environment aware, and that we use bytes import.meta.env.dev flags to switch between, like, if it's mock data or if it's production data or dataverse data. So here we have a part where we build the API URL. So here, this is the dev mode, and then production to call to the Power Pages web API. And again, AI generated most of this for me. I'm just looking at it like this is a great way that I found to learn more about how I can build it myself in the future. So the production URL builder here seems like to, from my notes, to assemble OData query strings to like select filters and order by or top, and targets the Power Pages web API endpoint. So basically, this is one hook for the Dataverse access there.
Hey, Alex.
Yep.
We have a question, someone asking, do you know roughly how many GitHub Copilot credits this took, what you've been showing?
0. I used the Microsoft 365 one, right? The 365 Copilot that I paid like $17 or $20 a month for. So one important note that I'll mention on that is you want to make sure you tell your agent to go step by step, because what I went through is when I use the agent, and yeah, it's gonna take so long to load, so I won't show you an example, but I'll talk to it. What I went through is that it tried to give me everything at once. I was like, okay, hold on, and then it failed, and it gave me errors and stuff like that, and I wasted time. So I was like, hold on, let's take like a iterative approach. First, tell me about like I would set up the custom React hook to Power Pages, and then I'll let you know when to move on to the next step. So like based on like the steps that it initially gave you, I told it, okay, let's go with this first. Let's look at that, and then let's go to this. So that saved me a lot of time being able to get like, because for some reason, if it tries to give me everything, it'll fail on me through the Copilot Studio Online. So yeah, no credit. So we have the custom React hook to Power Pages that like basically dictates how we're going to connect to Dataverse. Then we move on to the TypeScript types for Dataverse. So that's where you set your contracts, basically the TypeScript contracts is what they call them, that will mirror the custom Dataverse tables that I would have on my solution I showed you earlier. So you can see AM is basically I've got the name, right? Export interface profile. I've got the information from my profile table. Same with experience table, portfolio project, and feedback. So those are distinct content. And then in later space, when I look to right now, the Dataverse game I showed earlier is hard coded, but if I wanted to be on a Dataverse table, that I would just add to this file, export interface, arcade or something like that with the column mapping. So I'm looking at my note here and a few architectural notes that are worth mentioning is all IDs follow the Dataverse convention of table name ID and are GUIDs. So like I think the logical name probably. And dates are typed as string because Dataverse, nope, I'm not gonna read that. So yeah, so those entities we're gonna set up later through the Power Pages web API to allow access. Each one you do want to give the table permissions, but that's after you upload all this, right? So you could, as you create this file, you could also create your, let's say you used the Copilot agent to help you build the model, which I personally try to avoid, but you could then at that point both create this Dataverse.ts and your Dataverse tables in parallel. So that's going to tell basically the rest of what we're going to look at, how to connect. So here I have one component example, and just to share my Visual Studio screen here, you can see that my current setup for this site is, so that's the mock data, but in the components, I have one file for each component, and then one CSS file for each actual TypeScript file, right? That imports the specific style for that. So that's the setup. And then I have pages that call that bring in the different components into their setup. So here in this example, we have the testimonial carousel, the one I showed earlier, that shows like the feedback received or whatnot. And let me take a look at it. So we have like auto rotation that's handled by like use effect. I won't go too much into details, but just to give you an idea of the data I kind of return, I had to make some modifications here, but very minimal. Out of the box, it worked great with the prompt of telling it the goal and what I was trying to do with it. And I think this one, if we look at it, I don't know, you let me know. Is it too many lines of code? We have 82 lines of code for that one, it looks like. So it's just a feedback carousel, right, that I then put in to the home, the TypeScript. So all of a big part of this is how much I'm learning, like going through the process, because you might be like me, you might be someone that wants to do things hands-on, and this is a really great way to learn that I found. So we have like the components in team. So that's the next step, right? So we did, just to recap, custom React hook was the first one we looked at updating. Then the TypeScript types for Dataverse table. Then the components and teams before even the pages. That depends really. You might do it like different ways. But then I added the pages and the teams as well. And here we have an example of the landing page. So this pulls a lot of information together. We have Dataverse backed information, I think featured projects, that's brought from Dataverse here. We have some static text that's brought over here, and you can see here everything that we're importing from those different components and modules to use on that specific page. So that's kind of the same process, and I have another slide on the game one, so I'll go through that. But just to go back here, so in the pages, basically about page, right? Kind of the same process, pulls in different components using the hooks and the types, and yeah. So next, we have the app shell, the Ash router layout. So this is basically from what I've learned, the file that like brings everything together. Every page, every like different layout into a global React tree, right? So it imports like the nav bar, the footer. It lays out basically maybe I can bring it up here so we can see everything. Yeah, so it's a bigger one, so I won't scroll down all the way, but basically we import all different components and pages, the styles, kind of the structure of the site itself. And then we use Ash router from React DOM and that's deliberate, and it's worth calling out because Power Pages serves, and told you I had the information somewhere. It serves the React app as a static bundle inside the portal page, and the portal doesn't rewrite arbitrary path back to index HTML. So the way a traditional SPA host would. So if you're gonna build a SPA, you'll need that, it looks like. All right, and routes. So we have routes, footers. So this is a rather small shell, I guess, for Power Pages compatibility. That was again provided to me through the AI, minimal upload, but looking at this, I was able to manually, so I did a manual thing here, right? I imported Arcade Page when I updated the site. So looking through this, I learned a lot about how this is set up. All right, so that was phase one. So really, when you have phase one, I might be missing, let me go back up here to the correct sequence. So phase one, we build our team components, pages, app. Then you can have your mock data information. So I actually did set that up. So I have like mock data here. So whenever I run either nmp run dev or nmp run build, if I run nmp run dev here, it'll use the mock data. I won't, need to be connected directly. So I can test my site using a mock information before I need to initially upload it to the environment. So that's an important part here. But basically, when you're ready to upload the site, you want to run nmp run build. So you build your data. So let me go back to the screen I was on. So once you've done that, we're gonna first allow JavaScript uploads in the environment. So you want to go to your environment under settings, privacy and security. And there's like a little JavaScript JS thing here you want to take out and just save that, because we want to be able to upload the code site. Then after that, you want to authenticate to your Dataverse environment. Make sure you select the correct environment. You could do Outpack create or select, right? Environment select, I think is what it's called. And then you want to do the initial upload of the site. So here you can, from your directory, making sure you're in the right folder, you can use this kind of setup here. So what happens is the upload the code site command then will create your website record in Dataverse and the ADX website table. And that's the record that you're going to reference. You want to save that, and you can save it in for quick access. For the future, you can have a powerpages.config.json and kind of save your website GUID ID in that file so that you have it somewhere in your repo where you can quickly use it again if you need to do a manual download. So then that's the point where you upload it. Might take a couple minutes. And then at that point, you would go to Power Pages and you'll find that the site, if everything went well, is inactive, and then activate it. Then our next step is to finally set the Web API integration. So you would go to your portal management application in your newly activated SPA site. And you can tell here, I just did everything right for the fields, but you would basically set your Web API fields. Then once you've set those up, you would then set your table permissions and your roles. And that's the process for like your first upload of your SPA site. But what if you needed to redeploy the site, right? And in my case, for example, I was curious, what else could I do with this? How can I re-upload it? The first thing you want to make sure that you do in your local repository, very important, is to run in your repo folder, pack pages, download code site, and then add your website GUID here, and then overwrite. What that will do is create a couple of folders here that will give you your site set up, and it will, basically download the information. So from there, you've downloaded your site. Then you can go ahead and add things on, like the Power Arcade that I did at that point. make your changes to your code, and then make sure those integrate with different parts of your code. So once you've rebuilt, made the updates that you wanted, then you can re-upload, by running npm run build and pack pages upload code site. So in this file, we have the distributory for the compile pass, but that's basically the structure there. All right, and then for the re-upload, I have a couple more slides. I have 2 more slides to go through. So for the re-upload, same agent. That was my original prompt. Ideas for a React page, and I kind of used the information I had before. I know I wanted a TypeScript page with a module.css page to be added. I wanted an engaging mini game for Power Platform trivia. And I had some follow-up conversation with that AI, but at the base it gave me 4 different new files I needed to add, right? Power Arcade, the component, the CSS module, then the page itself with its CSS module. So really that's kind of the fun one that kind of showed me everything you could bring in through, and I was pretty impressed because it added some really cool functions like the streak logic excuse me, that I showed you earlier. Like if we look, and then that's the part where I've kind of wanted to explore what it did. So if I look into Power Arcade here and I look at streak, you can see here if the streak is greater or equal to 3, then we have 1.5 streak, right? It created all of this kind of logic that I really didn't even, I wasn't even thinking of a streak. That's pretty cool. So it generated all of this code to me, but then I wanted to add like music to it. So I use the agent to kind of help me try to figure out how to add the music. And to do it really quickly, I house the audio asset here. So if I look for synthwave EG and added these couple code lines, right? It got me in there trying to understand like the structure. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got, guys. Any questions for me on what I've presented for so far today? And I'll switch the screen. I'll take a look at the GoToMeeting here.
I don't see any questions. Just good feedback. Very cool stuff. I know that I in the last 6 months or so, I've really started going deep into this rabbit hole, and it's just really just frankly amazing what these tools can do, and I really appreciate the perspective of you said that you don't necessarily come from a pro dev background, but kind of what it can allow someone like with your skill set to do, and I was just super impressed when I first saw the arcade thing that you had kind of put out there, and that was very cool.
Yeah, I think my next step is I'm gonna try to connect it to a actual Dataverse table. That's gonna be my next step itself. But it's really cool. It's really amazing that I'm so surprised that I was able to pull it together in like a day. Like I waited till like the Sunday after my vacation. I was like, okay, let's zone in, and yeah, I was able to pull that together. So thank you, Nick, and thank you, everyone. Glad to share it all.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I know people really appreciate it, and I'm sure this will not only the audience we have, some of the stuff in the kind of more in the real world, and seeing it in action. So thanks so much for doing that for us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. Well, the next call we got scheduled for August 20th, and so we're always looking for people to provide suggestions on what topics you want to see covered. So if anyone has any ideas, you can submit them via our website, get in touch with me on LinkedIn. Lots of ways to give us your feedback. Beyond that, as always, I just want to say thank you to Jason for organizing these calls. I know today was a little bit more of an investment with our guest speaker. He came on nice and early and made sure everything was all prepped. So Jason, thank you so much for doing that and everything that you do. I'm going to pause here just to see if there's any additional questions that we have today. I know we answered Jim and Karen's questions so far. I don't see anything else popping up here, so I think, Jason, we could probably wrap it up there today.
All right. Thank you both to Alex and to you, Nick. And with that, we will wrap things up. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks all.